Hello, YouTube. Not sure if I'm up here or not. Yeah, somebody's here. Um, I'm Greg. Today I'm going to be talking about the Hunter College High School admissions test. Basically what the procedure is and some aspects about the test. I'm not actually going to go into details of the actual material in the test, but how to register and what Hunter College High School is and things like that. So let me tell you first of all who I am. My name is Greg. I'm from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. I have decades of tutoring experience across all ages, especially elementary grades. I've tutored for the SHSAT. I already tutored for the Hunter College High School. I tutored for the TACHS, the Catholic High School test, the ISEE, the SSAT, the PSAT, the SAT, all the New York State tests. I tutor for Beacon and Bard and Baccalaureate. I tutor for the CML and the AMC math competitions. All right, thank you. Hopefully it catches up. I also tutor for various things outside of New York City. For instance, a lot of the New Jersey vocational schools, like the Bergen County Academies. There's also some specialized high schools there. I had tutored a kid in Newark, because Newark also has some specialized schools, and the Boston exam schools, as well as some middle schools in New York City, like MS-54, the Booker T. Washington Middle School in Manhattan, and so on. Where is Hunter College High School located? It's located on the Hunter College campus, which is in Manhattan, the east side of Manhattan on 94th Street, between Park Avenue and Madison Avenue. And it's part of the Hunter College campus. It's separate by itself, so the kids are not interacting with the college level things. In fact, there's the Hunter College Elementary School as well, which partially feeds the high school. So the Hunter College Elementary School has its own test, and then when you take the high school, there's a second test that you need to take. And if you're already in the elementary school, if they accept you, you can get passed on, I believe, without taking the test. Okay? So basically, what's the requirements to be able to take the Hunter College High School test? First of all, you need to be a resident of New York City. And any of the 5 boroughs. You don't have to be a resident of Manhattan only. Although at that point, you need to make a judicious call. For instance, if your student lives, say, in Rockaway, going to Manhattan is a good trek. Now, that said, I was a Brooklyn Tech student. I also came from Rockaway, and that was also a good trek. So you have to make a balance and decide what makes sense or not. All right? So you have to be a New York City resident. If you're not a New York City resident, you need to follow slightly different rules here, which I'll talk about in a second. The other thing to enter the Hunter College High Schools, you need to be in grade 6, because the Hunter College High School starts in grade 7. Okay, it doesn't start in grade 9, it starts in grade 7. What you do in some of the early years is they give you a lot of foundations, so when you finally get to the high school stuff, not only are you accelerated, but you're ready for the high school part. And when you get to the end of the high school, you're doing college level work and things like that as well, okay? So there's circularity there. The other thing you need is you need to be in the 90th percentile. In other words, the top 10% of kids. And one way they weed that out is that they use your grade 5 ELA and your grade 5 math state test scores. In the fall of 2019, you needed a 625 or above. They don't know what that number is yet. I'm doing this in mid-July of 2019. They haven't revealed those numbers because the state tests for kids in New York City hasn't been released yet because New York State hasn't released it. So that probably won't get released until September. So the actual criteria for admissions for Hunter College High School probably won't be released until after that. Okay? But anyway, last year you needed a 625 in both, not one or the other, in both. So a super top kid here. All right? So if you come from another state and you're going to be ending up living in New York, you have to show them an equivalent exam. Some use Terra Nova and other things. You need to contact Hunter College High School and ask them if what you have is acceptable or not. If it's not, or you have no exam whatsoever, you take what they call a QE, a qualifying exam. I tutored a kid last year who went to a private prep school in Manhattan, and he had never taken a New York State test. Was not even familiar with what standardized testing was about, which put him at a disadvantage to all the other kids who were taking the Hunter College. And he was unfamiliar with terminology and a whole bunch of other stuff. Didn't matter what he was taught at school. He's trying to target this test. So he had to take a QE. So the physics of the test is that the Hunter College test is often given around mid-January. So it was given January 11th of this year. So figure about that's going to happen next year too and be consistent. So it's mid to late January. I think there was 1 or 2 years where it snowed or something, and it was done very early February. So so now was a good time to start preparing for this test. Your children are off. They're not in school. Once September comes, they'll be back in school. In fact, some kids are starting school at the end of August, including in New York City. Some charter schools are, for instance. And if you go to a private school already, they might be doing that. If you're taking public school, you're going to start September or something. I forget the exact date off the top of my head. In an event, you have about 5 months to prepare if you start now. That's a long time and also not a long time at the same time. I say that because the test is super duper hard. It's nothing like a New York State test. Even if you're familiar with the specialized high school test, it is nothing like that. And those kids are 2 years later than the kids who are here. Again, you're going to take this test, your child's going to take this test when they're in grade 6, not when they're in grade 8 or 9. Okay, so they're very young still. Some of them might be 11 or 12 still. Some might be 13, depends on when they enter school and so on. Or if they happen to skip a year, all right? So these are young kids taking a super duper hard test. So and it's a test most adults cannot pass. So there's 3 parts to it. There's a reading part, a math part, and a writing part, all right? The ELA part is similar to the state tests to the extent that there's reading comprehension. There'll be passages, and they have to answer questions. It's different in that it's not grade 5 or grade 6 passages. It's past high school passages. So there's super duper hard passages. There used to be a grammar section. They've removed that. Maybe they're going to add it back. Okay, there's a whole mystery on top of this whole test as well. The second section is math, which is super duper tough stuff. There's going to be algebra in it for sure. Not just grade 7 and grade algebra, but super duper stuff. So there might be things about area, but really hard questions about area. There might be questions about fractions, but stuff your child has never seen in their life before about fractions. Okay, I can't keep. I'm not exaggerating this when I keep saying they've never seen this before and how hard it is. It's going to be the most hardest test they'll probably take in their life until they get past college. It's harder than the SAT even. It's at that level. All right. So there'll be graphing. There'll be percentages, distance, time, plotting stuff. There's a concept called magic squares. There's going to be volume. There's going to be area. There's going to be 2D shapes, 3D shapes, circles, you name it, even visual and spatial math. So not just numbers. They have to visualize something sometimes and do something topologically in their head. So this is super cognitive. It's not just hard. It's past hard. It's super duper hard, and they're going to melt at the end of it. Your child's just going to explode. So although the framework of some of it, like I said, reading comprehension for the ELA, the framework might be similar to, say, the New York State test. The actual test itself, it's mind-blowing, okay? It's that hard, all right? So what happens is that about 3,000 kids apply for this test, all right? And what they do is with the 3 sections, the kid will come in on test day, which was on January 11th last year, or this year. And of the 3,000 kids, they're going to look at everybody's ELA and math score. And they're going to pick the top 500 kids of those. So that means 2,500 kids are gone already. Of the top 500 with the ELA and math score combined, then they're going to look at their writing passage. Okay? And if their writing passage is good enough, And there's a little ambiguity here. Again, there's a lot of mystery to this test, including the scoring and how it's ranked and which part goes. But the general consensus seems to be is when they get to the writing part, they totally ignore your math and English part. Okay, that's wishy-washy, but that's the general consensus that what happens. So at that point, it doesn't matter if you got 100 on the ELA and 100 on the math section of the test. If you screw up the writing section, that's it, you're out. Okay? So there's this kind of an iterative process here. First of all, you have to get to 625 on the ELA and math grade 5 state test. Then you come in and take their test. They rank everybody, they score everybody, and pick the top 500 people out. And then on the writing, they pick the top 125 kids. Those are the kids who are getting offers. Okay? So it's 125 out of 3,000 kids. That means only 4% of the kids get offers. So that's statistically 0 kids get offers. That means your kid needs to be prepared for this test. And the test is that hard. If anybody's following anything in New York City recently, there's a lot of debate about test prepping for the SHSAT. At least that test you can argue, the kid probably has seen a lot of stuff on the test. On the Hunter College High School test, I can guarantee that your child, your student, has never seen half of it in their life before. And again, I'm not exaggerating by saying things like this. So the test is that hard, that different, that it's just a beast. It's a beast in its own right. Okay? So let me scroll up here. I wrote some notes. I just want to make sure that I covered pretty much everything here. So what this comes down to is that your child's writing section won't be looked at unless they ace the ELA and the math part. And they won't get in unless their writing part is top-notch. So a lot of kids are really great in math, but not necessarily in English. A lot of kids are great in English, but not necessarily in math. And a lot of kids are great in English and math, but their writing is super-duper horrible. And I've seen this. A lot of your children, they're not writing good passages. They're not breaking it down into paragraphs. They have laced with punctuation errors, laced with spelling errors. They can start writing with their main idea of their own, and by the end of their passage, they're talking about something else. So they need to be focused. And a lot of these are skills they do not have right now. And these are skills you need to get into the school, okay? And skills that they can obtain and have for the rest of their lives. All right, so this is super duper important to be prepared and understand what this test is about. All right, so I want to repeat again that your child is not entering Hunter College High School a grade 9. They're entering grade 7. And it's their grade 5 ELA and math state test scores that are being used as the basis to see if they can even take the test. You just can't call them up and say, I want to take this test. You need that 625 and above. And by the way, as I emphasized before, this year they may change that number to a different number. It might be lower, it might be higher. They may add other criteria as well. Okay? And by the way, you have to pay to take the test. The test is not for free. This year it was $70. I believe that you could talk about economic disadvantage, and don't quote me on this, but I think it came down to $20. Well, you have to talk to the school about this. All right? And by the way, the deadline for the application is November 20th, or it was for last year for the fall 2019 admission. So when you applied in fall 2018 to be a fall 2019 student, you paid $70. You applied by November 20th it was that year. It might change, so figure before Thanksgiving, sometime around that time, or maybe the week before or after Thanksgiving. Just stick Thanksgiving in your head that you need to have it done before that. And you don't want to apply the night before. You want to have this well thought out and figured out that this is a school for my child. Talk to your child. Does my child really want to go here? Look online, do some research about the school, and really make sure you want your child to go here. Because if you don't, it's going to be a mistake. We're talking about a lot of people look at what's the best school. Well, the question is, what's the best school for your child? And is the school good for your child? And is your child backwards good for the school? Both of those have to be true. And by the way, that has to be true if your child is going to apply for specialized high schools and so on as well. A lot of people so focused on what's the best school. Is what's the best school for your child? Okay? So now is a good time to be doing all this, which is one reason why I'm doing this stream. All right? So that you want to make sure that you're getting all this down pat and you're figuring all this out, so that you want to remain calm about this, so that your child is calm. So this is a controversial test for the same reasons the SHSAT is controversial, the specialized high school test. A lot of children of color don't get in through this test, and a lot of Asians do, and it's even impartial to that. So it becomes controversial for that and a few other reasons. The test is also mysterious. Hunter College has never released to test anybody. Nobody never knows exactly what the questions are. So all we can go is by past experience, by asking the children, like, how was the test? What kind of questions was it? They do release a sample online, but we don't know every year if it's going to look exactly that way. So all we can do is take stuff like that, these mysterious elements, and base it off of there. Now, somebody like me has experience with working with the kids on this. So I'm a lot more deeply familiar than the average person is, and the average parent and the average child. So you want somebody like me involved with your child in the tutoring process and the preparation process for this. And now is a good time to pace it out. Pacing is super duper important. Almost no information is ever revealed about this test. So a lot of people don't know what to expect. I know what to expect. This is a challenging, mysterious test. And it's something that you or your child has never seen before. But I have. And a lot of parents start freaking out, become helicopter parents, and start getting upset and getting really anxious. And that feeds back onto your child. Oh, you have to go to school and all this other stuff. No, you want to go through this progression calmly so that your kid's not freaking out through the whole process, and especially they're not freaking out on test day. When test day comes, you want your child to be calm and collected and prepared. So when I prep kids, I want to encourage them. I want to make sure it's fun. I want to make sure it's productive. So we don't lead to a student problem or a parent problem. And now is the time to start this process so that you can stay cool, calm, and collected on test day. Especially if something weird happens on test day, like your child woke up with a headache, or you forgot the application. You get a ticket at some point. You forgot the ticket, or you got lost going there. So you should do a trial run and so on. There's lots of stuff to talk about here that is beyond just help my child with the question on the test. And there's a whole psychological factor to this, that your child needs to be psychologically prepared to take a test like this. And by the way, for those who follow me about all the YouTubes and streams I've done about the SHSAT, that's equally as true as well. Okay? So there's good news and bad news. The good news is everybody is unprepared for this test. Okay? The bad news is that a lot of smart kids are going to be taking this test. A lot of smart kids are going to be in the 90th percentile. They've already been vetted out. That every kid taking this is a pretty good, smart kid. So how can you get to be that 4%? Okay? That's really a lot of what this question is about. And you need somebody to crawl on your child's brain like me. Crawl on their brain and figure out their strengths and weaknesses. Figure out how they're solving problems or not solving problems. Provide them test-taking skills. Run through all the examples with them repeatedly, over and over and over. Run through examples like that with them. Okay? And tell them how to pace the test. Tell them how to remain calm. Teach them how to breathe during the test, in addition to answering all the hard questions. There's a whole bunch of parts to this that have to all fit together in order for this to happen. So again, I'm Greg. You can email me at GregsTutoringNYC@gmail.com. Any questions you have about the Honda process admissions process, please ask me about. I tutor for many specialized tests. I tutor for this test. I've gotten a number of kids into the school. Really great process. You know, let's go through this. In addition to teaching your child the raw math and the raw English and the raw writing, test-taking skills, keeping them calm, and making a plan, hatching a plan to progress forward into a high-stakes test such as this one. All right? Again, I dropped a bunch of knowledge there about this test. Really quick overview. Not sure how long this has lasted. Again, please contact me. I'm available. I live in New York City. I'm in Queens. I'm in Manhattan quite often. But your child might be in Queens considering to take this test. And so on and so on and so on. So please contact me about my availability, about my rates, about how we should approach this. And let's do this. It could be a really fun, great process. All right? Have a great day, and peace out, people.